up, tribe? It's your girl Michelle here. I am here to pop in and brighten your day with a horror novel review. If you're wondering why I'm wearing the same makeup as the last book review, it's because I'm actually filming a lot of these back to back because they have been piling up like crazy, and I really want to go ahead and just kind of power film through these so I can remember all the books I read and get the most genuine experiences I had out to you before they are lost, because my memory is shite. So today we're only going to be covering 2 books, but I do have quite a bit to say about both of them. So sit back, relax, grab that hot beverage, drink it for your girl because I don't have any right now, and let's dive into this. The first book that I would like to start with today is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. Ever since I saw the cover of this book and realized that the word exorcism was in the title, I knew I had to read it. And I am still very new to the booktubing, is that even a word? Universe. But I have already heard so many booktubers review and talk about this book. Now I can't remember, when did this book come out? 2014? It's been out for quite a while. I've just never freaking heard of it because, as you guys know who have been watching my videos a lot lately, I am just now diving back into contemporary horror. For the longest time, my bookshelf has been the same freaking size, this tiny little shelf. And it had horror novels on it, but it was horror novels that are more like gothic literature, and they were the ones I've had since high school, and I've pretty much just stuck with rereading them my whole life. And now that I'm 30, yes, the big 3-0 hit me this year, I really want to dive back into my passions because, I mean, I know 30 is not old by any means, but once you're out of your 20s, you look at life a little different, I feel. And it's just like, wow, there's some things in my life I really wish I hadn't let go of, or I hadn't gotten so busy and bogged down that I forgot about. And one of those is my absolute love and obsession for all things horror, whether it be novels, movies, whatever. So I have been diving back into reading like a motherfucker, like crazy. So this book, I want to say I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads, but I may have given it a 5 out of 5 when I first ended this book. Like the day, I usually do my Goodreads reviews the day that I end the novel, or that I finish the novel, right? So those reviews I will always link down in the description below if you want to check out. Usually you'll notice very quickly that I write and type much better than I speak. So my reviews are usually very succinct and to the point, whereas my videos are all over the place because I can't seem to ever get what I want to say out. Anyway, this book was a roller coaster. A fucking roller coaster. I did enjoy it quite a bit though. The storyline was great. The character building was great, but I will say, I started off this book absolutely despising the main character. And I think the reason why is because you start off when they're quite young, and they're like, what, 10 or something when you start this book off, and it's kind of like just leading into how these 2 best friends become best friends. But the first few scenes, you just, oh my god, I got so annoyed with this little 10-year-old version of our main character. Like, how fucking annoying are you? Just being this little bitch. And then I got to thinking about it, and I was like, okay, every girl who's ever been 10 was probably a little bitch. I know I probably was. So she goes through some things. They all go through some things. They end up best friends. They have like a little friend group, but the 2 main best friends are Abby and Gretchen. So those are like the 2 that are like this the whole time, right? And Abby is from more of like a middle class, possibly poverty level family, whereas Gretchen's from like a very high-end rich family. So even though they have a lot of differences, they're very warm and accepting towards each other. And you know, the whole incident that happens where Gretchen ends up being possessed by this spirit or demon is very strange. Like, you never get a full explanation of how it happened, which is fine. I mean, how does any shit like this happen? We don't fucking know. So, I mean, it's totally fine that there's not like an in-depth exploration of that. Very creepy. I did enjoy the buildup of, you know, like these weird things that were happening, the supernatural elements that were getting kind of creepy. The one frustrating thing about this book, and it's not a bad thing because it's meant to be frustrating, is just the constant battle that Abby has to deal with as she's trying to make everyone see that something's not fucking right with Gretchen. And then all of a sudden everyone's against Abby, and Abby's coming off as this fucking crazy psychotic bitch that everyone hates, when in reality it's Gretchen who is possessed by this evil demonic force who's conspiring against everyone. And it's just so fucking frustrating. It makes me want to bash Gretchen's face in. But honestly, the story is really good, and it ties in at the end. It kind of wraps up the story when they're a lot older and later on in life, and it's just a really wholesome ending. It kind of made me think about the ending from It, by Stephen King, where it's like you have these friends and you know they're always going to be friends, even though they go through times where they just don't even really speak very much. But yeah, this book was really good. I enjoyed it. I'll definitely always keep it. I don't know if I'll reread it a whole lot, but it's definitely good. I enjoyed it a lot. I encourage you to read it if you like demonic possession movies or books. I think you'll get a kick out of it. There's definitely an 80s vibe to it. It honestly made me think of Stranger Things while I was reading it, just because it has some of those same references that you see in Stranger Things. But I loved it. I loved it. It was cool. So yeah, definitely approve of that one. So the next book I want to talk to you guys about is a book that I had been I just knew I had to read it. But for the longest time, I had no idea that it was even a fucking book, because I live under a rock and I apparently don't put two and two together ever. And that is The Ritual by Adam Neville. I watched the fucking movie adaptation for this book on Netflix probably 2 to 3 solid months before it clicked in my head that that fucker was a book. Hello. I don't know why it didn't click in my head. It probably even said on the movie, this is an adaptation from such and such book, because a lot of times they do that. It probably even said that and I fucking didn't even read it. I'm special. Anyway, I loved that movie. It was such a good movie. I love creature features. I love isolation horror. I love a group of friends going out into the woods and pretty much either getting eaten or having to survive horrible circumstances. You'll notice in a lot of my book reviews that a lot of the books I pick up are creature features very similar to this one. Now, I knew I had to read the book because, as always, when you love a movie, usually the book is even better, because the book is going to give you so much more character building and plot line and storytelling and atmosphere, and it's going to let your imagination kind of build some shit. So I knew I had to read the book, so I got the book. I don't even remember where I ordered it or if I picked it up at Barnes & Nobles. It doesn't fucking matter. Anyway, got the book, put it like at the beginning of my TBR for this year, sat down and read it. And I loved it. Now the first half of the book is very similar to the movie. Now there's some key points that the movie adds, actually, that the book did not have, as far as like the relationship between the friend group. So there's that was interesting, I thought, that the movie actually added to the storyline. Because usually it's the other way around. Usually the movie takes away. But anyway, I thought that was cool. I actually liked the movie's adaptation of the friend group almost a little better, but I still loved the book. I did almost find myself like connecting on an emotional level with our main male character, the one who's like single and quote unquote free. Just because, like, as a 30-year-old woman who has been married, been divorced, is in a new relationship now, doesn't have kids. You know, I'm kind of the odd man out in a lot of my own friend groups. You know, most of my friends are settled down, they're married, they have kids. It doesn't bother me any, but like from a male perspective, especially when you start having all your friends settle down and have kids and you're like the only free I don't even know, I don't think that's even a correct way to word it, but that's how they kind of refer to it in the book. When you're like the only free individual in your friend group, it can get kind of lonely sometimes. It can start to make you feel like the odd man out in your friend group, because it just, after a while, it's like all your friends, all they ever talk about is their kids, and then it's hard for you to relate to your friends anymore. Now, thankfully, my best friend has kids and is married, and I still relate to her like this. So, I mean, obviously that's not everyone's friend group. But in this particular friend group, you see a lot of hostility between our main single man and the other ones who are newly married and have been married for quite a while. And I don't even know why that is. Like, it gets explained and it gets like drawn out throughout the story, but that's not even the main, issue. The main issue is, hello, we're stuck out in the woods and there's something picking us off, right? So the descriptions of the gore, love. The atmosphere building, love. The second half of this book, I did not love as much as the first, but I still loved it. The second half of this book goes into so much more detail about the cult-like people that our main character ends up involved with than the movie did. Like, if you watch the movie The Ritual, they're just like a little blip at the end before everything goes to hell. But in the book, there's half of this fucking book where he's like with these people and you kind of get to know them in a weird, deranged way, and you kind of come to hate them. I despised those characters, and I think that was the point. I absolutely despised those characters. First of all, I've classified myself in kind of like a pagan way for a long time, and I love the Norse religions, the ancient ways. I don't necessarily practice them, so I'm not trying to like speak on their behalf because I feel like that's disrespectful. I'm not trying to appropriate anyone's culture here, but the imbeciles in this book who think that they are part of the Norse pagan or heathen, religions are full of shit. Like, they're the dumbest fucktards that I've ever read about in a book, and it kind of almost gets to that offensive point where it's like, I have respect for this religion and this culture, and these people are shitting all over it. But I feel like that's the author's point. The author's point is to kind of pinpoint these people as the ultimate posers. Like, they don't give a shit about anyone. They're practically serial killers. Like, they don't give a shit about people. They have nothing for human life. Now, they are in league, sort of, with this old lady who, I don't know what her role is. It's never fully explained. I won't spoil anything for you, but she was part of the old ways. And it's not necessarily that the old ways through her were determined as good or bad, but there's definitely like a bloodthirsty type of a feel to the old ways. And maybe that's accurate. I don't know. But the smackdown, throwdown fight issues, that our main character has with these posers is almost humorous. It's very weird at the end. Like, through the whole first half of the book, you have your protagonists who are getting picked off by your evil creature. And then halfway through the book, you have our main character stuck alone with these poser, heathen type people who think they know what the Norse religions were all about, who are in league with this one woman who probably knows too much. And then at the end, there's just this craziness that happens. I'm not gonna spoil it, but there's so much shit that our main character goes through in this book. I have no idea how mentally, physically, and emotionally he makes it out of there. And even that is kind of left up in the air. The ending to this book is a little up in the air. And I kind of liked that because I feel like that gives the reader some control over, where our main character ultimately ends up, which is kind of nice. but there's such a deep feeling to this book. I know I'm gonna read this book probably 100 more times, at least, in my lifetime. Because it's one of those books that, like, the first passing, you get the story, okay, cool, you get little tidbits, but I feel like there's so much more to it that I missed. I feel like there's a deeper level to this book that I missed, or that I missed pieces of, or that, like, my mind was, like, starting to think about and philosophize, if that's even a word, about. But I definitely am gonna have to give it a reread. It's probably one of those books that I'll read like once a year or once every other year, just because it's so fucking good. Like, this has everything I ask for in a creature feature type horror novel. And it even brings in a little bit of what I call spiritual horror too, because it brings in that, like, religious element of the paranormal that makes a lot of people, myself included, very unsettled and disturbed. So I love it. Like, I love it. Like, yes, I enjoyed the first half of the book more than the second, but the whole thing is amazing. So, Adam Neville, love you. I will be reading more of your work for sure. So that was awesome. Both of these books, The Ritual and My Best Friend's Exorcism, I definitely recommend. Very different types of books for sure, very different feels, but I enjoyed both of them. So, I mean, if you're anything like me, or if you enjoy creature features or possession books, I highly recommend them, so go check them out. So yeah, I know I just talked you guys to death over that, but I loved those books so much, especially The Ritual. Good Lord, that book just, like, spoke to me. But yeah, go check these books out. Thank you so much for sticking with me throughout this ranting and raving about books, because we all know that I'm obsessed. But yeah, thank you guys for sticking along with me as we kind of, like, adventure down this booktube horror novel road together. I don't know why that was so hard to say, but anyway, I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you guys are enjoying your day, night, morning, all that good stuff. And I will see you all in the next video.